the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga.
Hare Hare Bol.
Okay. Just give me a quick moment here to set up the verse. There it is. And share. And share. Okay. Very good. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, The Status Quo, Chapter 7, Further Inquiries by Vidura. And
Prabhu,
today,
can you move it little up, Prabhu?
yes, I shall. Just give me in a moment. Today we're doing text 15 and 16.
Thank you.
I'll read 15 myself, and then 16 we'll do together. Vidura uvacha sanchina samshayo mahyam tava suktasina vibho ubaya trapi bhagavan manome sampradavati. Translation. Vidura said, "O powerful sage, my lord, all my doubts about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. My mind is now perfectly entering into them." Purport. The science of Krishna, or the science of God and the living entities, is so subtle that even a personality like Vidura has to consult persons like the sage Maitreya. Doubts about the eternal relationship of the Lord and the living entity are created by mental speculators in different ways, but the conclusive fact is that the relationship of God and the living entity is one of the predominator and the predominated. The Lord is the eternal predominator, and the living entities are eternally predominated. Real knowledge of this relationship entails reviving the lost consciousness to this standard, and the process for such revival is devotional service to the Lord. By clearly understanding from authorities like the sage Maitreya, one can become situated in real knowledge, and the disturbed mind can thus be fixed on the progressive path. And here's text 16. Sadvetad vyaritam vidvan natma mayayanam hare habatya partam nirmulam vishwamulam nayad bahi. Sadvetad vyaritam vidvan natma mayayanam hare habhatya partam nirmulam vishwamulam nayad bahi. Sadvetad vyaritam vidvan natma mayayanam hare abhatya partam nirmulam vishwamulam nayad bahi. Everyone can chant.
Sada etad vairitam vidvan natma mayananam hare abhatya partam nirmulam vishvamulam nayad bahi.
साद्वेतद्व्यहृतं विद्वन् नात्ममायायनं हरे आहत्य पार्थं निर्मूलं विश्वमूलं न यद्बहिः
सद्वेताद्यहृतं विद्वान् नात्ममायायनं हरिः अभ्यर्थ्यापार्थं निर्मूलं विषमूलं न यद् बहिः बहिः
सदैवेतव्याहृतं विद्वं नात्मा मायायनं हरे अभाति अपरितं निर्मूलं विश्वमूलं न यद्बहिः
हरे कृष्ण साधवे तद्व्याहतं विदत्रात्ममाययं हरे अभात्य पार्थ निर्मूलं विषमूलं न यदहि हरे कृष्ण
Anyone else? Okay, word for word translation, synonyms. Sadhu, as good as it should be. Etat, all these explanations. Vyaritam, the spoken. Vidvan, O learned one. Na, not. Atma, the self. Maya, energy. Ayanam, movement. Hare, of the personality of Godhead. Abhati, appears. Apartam, without meaning. Nirmulam, without basis. Vishwamulam, the origin is the supreme. Na, not. Yat, which. Bahi, outside. Translation. O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances to the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. A living entity's unlawful desire to become one with the Lord in every respect is the root cause of the entire material manifestation. For otherwise, the Lord has no need to create such a manifestation, even for his pastimes. The conditioned soul, under the spell of the external energy of the Lord, falsely suffers many unfortunate incidents in material life. The Lord is the predominator of the external energy, Maya, whereas the living entity is predominated by the same Maya under the material condition. The false attempt of the living entity to occupy the predominating post of the Lord is the cause of his material bondage. And the conditioned soul's attempt to become one with the Lord is the last snare of Maya. Sadvaita vyaritam vidvan natmamayayanam hare abhatyapartam nirmulam vishwamulam nayadbahi. O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances to the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. See. No, which is the view that I'm looking for. Okay. So I'm really loving this section of the Bhagavatam, actually. And aside from the brilliant philosophical points that are being made and the brilliant questions Vidura is asking, and how much is being brought up, aside from the philosophical particulars, what I'm really loving is the interaction between Vidura and Maitreya. Last time I gave class, we spoke about Maitreya's great qualifications to be doing this. but the way that they're interacting, especially in today's verse, really struck me. So we'll discuss that for a while, and then we'll also discuss the particulars. And Prabhupada, in both purports, he's stressing this point that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the predominator, and the living entities are the predominated. But first, about Vidura's and Maitreya's relationship, what they're doing here. This is mundane, I suppose, but in the field of communication and counseling and in education, there's a process known as active listening. Everyone's listening, people are moving their mouths and vibrating their vocal cords, and sound is coming out, and the sound waves are moving through the atmosphere and hitting our eardrums, and the eardrums are vibrating, and then whatever it is I'm trying to remember, my old biology days, then the bones in the ear are vibrating and the hairs of the cochlea, and then the nerve impulses. So we're hearing. You could say, yes, we're hearing. The sound waves are coming through the air, entering my ears, and I'm hearing. But active listening is a step above that than that mere mechanistic or mechanical process. This is from Wikipedia. This is the definition of this process of active hearing. Active listening or active listening. Active listening is listening to understand. This form of listening conveys a mutual understanding between speaker and listener. Speakers receive confirmation that their point is coming across, and listeners absorb more content and understanding by being consciously engaged. The overall goal of active listening is to eliminate any misunderstandings and establish clear communication of thoughts and ideas between the speaker and listener. By actively listening to another person, a sense of belonging and mutual understanding between the two individuals is created. So, of course, this definition was not composed thinking of guru disciple or sadhus discussing Krishna Katha, but I think this is so applicable to what we're seeing here in Vidura and Maitreya. And then it goes on, some of the techniques of active listening is paraphrasing. In other words, someone instructs something to you and you say back to them, oh, so you mean that this is like this and this is like this. And then the listener, that means, first of all, the hearer is reinforcing that they learned something. And then the speaker also can have confidence then that his message is getting through to the person he's instructing. And if anyone's been a teacher, this is a lot of what teaching is, that you lecture to the student or the class, and then you expect the student to be able to, in their own words, repeat back to you what you've explained. So paraphrasing is one of the techniques. Reflective emotion. That means you're not just a dull stone. You have emotions, you have feelings. Maybe you're confused by what the person said, then you express that. Or maybe you're appreciating what the person said, then you express that. So reflective emotion has to be there also. And finally is questions. Questioning has to be there. If you never have any questions, then maybe not in every single case, but it's often a good sign that if the hearer has no questions, they might not be listening that deeply or very intensely. And the questions, they can be specific or they can be more open-ended questions. They could even be challenging to some degree, as like we see in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is not afraid to challenge Krishna. Oh, Krishna, you're saying this. You're saying you preached this to the sun god a zillion years ago. How is that possible when we're contemporaries? So questioning has to be there. So this kind of speaking and hearing is what is actually profitable. Not, like I said, not just hearing like like a dull stone. Just like now they have, there's all these uh, dictating apps where you could speak something and then the computer is able to turn it into text. So this is dull. It's doing the same thing, but it's dull. There's no reciprocation. There's no actual understanding behind it. So we have to be careful that our hearing isn't like that it's dull. We have to be active listeners. We have to be, do I understand this? Am I able to express what I'm hearing? Can I also express what I understand from this and have it confirmed from the speaker? Am I appreciating the speaker? Am I interacting with the speaker? So this is very important. And we could see here how Vidura is doing that. Just like he says in the second verse, he says, "O learned sage, your explanations are very good as they should be." So what does this mean? This means he's your explanation is good as it should be. This means he's expressing his faith in Maitreya. He says your explanations are good as they should be means, of course, you're qualified. I expect you to be speaking in these perfect words, these brilliant words, these proper explanations. I expect that of you. So that's an affirmation to Vidura, to Maitreya, that yes, I have full faith in your words and I'm ready to hear from you. So this is one point that this is the interaction of this active listening, that you're appreciating and expressing a willingness to hear from the person. And the other one is paraphrasing, right? That was one of the ones. So also he says he's repeating back to Maitreya in his own words what he's learned from Maitreya. So he says, disturbances to the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. He's repeating back to Maitreya. Vidura is repeating back to him what he's heard from him to assure Maitreya, yes, I understand what you've been explaining, and here it is in my own words. This is what you've been teaching me. So that gives confidence to Maitreya that he's actually conveying the knowledge. And it also gives the chance for the speaker to give further instruction, add further nuance to that understanding by further instruction, or even if the hearer expresses something improperly, he can say, no, that's not exactly what I was explaining. It should be like this. But that's what he's doing here. He's actually giving the same words back to Maitreya that he received. Just like what is it, like Prabhupada said, when you do the Ganga Puja, you take the water of the Ganges and you offer it into the Ganges. So this active listening is like that. You hear the knowledge from the spiritual master or from the great saint, and you say, oh, you're saying this, and you're saying this, and you're saying this. You're showing back to him that you've received it. So this is a very beautiful interaction. That's why, like I said, I'm enjoying this exchange so much, because they're sharing like this. Of course, last week we also discussed about the very close relationship between Maitreya and Vidura, that Maitreya is almost like an uncle to Vidura. So this close relationship is there, and the explanation is there, and the questions and the emotional exchange and the philosophical exchange are going on so nicely that therefore so much knowledge is being transmitted here. And that's why this, as I've said every time I've given class for the past several times at least, so much of the Bhagavatam is this, just by volume, by percentage, so much of it is this conversation between Vidura and Maitreya, and so much knowledge is being given. So this active listening, this is the real process of Shravanam. Like I said, not just waves through the air bouncing off our eardrums. That's the mechanistic process. But for it to actually do that and enter our heart takes this kind of very intentional, very conscious, and very reciprocal process of hearing. Hearing, in one sense, hearing is unidirectional, that someone is speaking and it's going like this, and then someone is hearing. So that's unidirectional. but it's actually an exchange between hearer and speaker. And that's the proper understanding, just like in Tuesday's verse. Yeah, Tuesday's class. Very nice verse. It said that those who hear the name, fame, pastimes, I don't remember the exact verse. This is just from memory. Those who hear the name, fame, pastimes, and glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are so blessed. What to speak, even more so, those who can relish the aroma of the dust of the Lord's lotus feet. And as His Grace Chara Chandra Prabhu explained, that's a distinction between hearing at the stage of sadhana bhakti and hearing at the stage of bhava bhakti. One is more mechanical. This is the definition of sadhana bhakti, that we do something because it's good for us, because the scripture says so, because our guru says so. We do these things. So we hear and chant about Krishna. And that, even at the stage of sadhana bhakti, is so glorious and so amazing. Even that, I wouldn't say mechanical, but it's a little bit motivated by duty, by sadhana. And even that is so glorious. And Nectar of Devotion describes how glorious it is, that it's so glorious that it's Shubhada. It gives all auspiciousness to the living entities. Even at the stage of sadhana, this hearing process gives all auspiciousness, Shubhada. And the other side of the coin is that it's Kleshagni. It destroys all inauspiciousness. And it gives such a happiness, such a bliss, that even at the sadhana stage, one can relish that bliss to the point that they can then resist the temptations of the so-called happiness of material sense gratification and the so-called happiness of what Prabhupada calls in today's purport, the last snare of Maya, this happiness of Brahmananda or some kind of impersonal liberation. But then the verse says, Tuesday's verse, it's even more so those who are relishing the dust of the fragrance, the flavor of the dust of Krishna's lotus feet. So just like this is like hearing, we hear, we said, okay, Prabhupada said, go to the class. So we go to the class. I'm supposed to chant my japa and listen. So I chant my japa and I'm listening to the holy name to some degree. But then when you come to the point of relishing the flavor of the dust of these topics, like Vidura is, through this act of reciprocal listening, then that's even more so. Just like Prabhupada said, instead of thinking, oh, I have to chant my 16 rounds and then I finish my rounds and I'm done. Instead, you'll come to the stage where you'll be thinking, why should I chant 16 rounds? Let me chant 1,600, 16,000 rounds. And there's that nice verse that I can't remember the Sanskrit now, that if I had many, when the holy name enters my ears, I wish that I had millions and millions of ears. And when the holy name dances on my tongue, I want millions and millions of tongue. And then when the holy name through the ears, from the tongue to the ears, and like I said, hearing is not just beating on the eardrums. It enters the ears and it enters the heart. So he says, when the holy name of Krishna enters into the heart and dances in the courtyard of your heart, then all of the material senses become stunned and in ecstasy. So this is the act of hearing. This is the real process of hearing and chanting between guru and disciple, or anytime devotees are hearing and chanting together. And this happens when the speaker and the hearer both are very, very qualified. Both the hearer and the speaker have to be very active listening and active speaking, not just by rote, just not mechanically, actively engaged and very intentional and very qualified. Like Bhagavad Gita. Why is Bhagavad Gita the amazing thing that it is? Because Krishna is the most qualified speaker. and Arjuna is the most qualified hearer. And we see Arjuna's active hearing. He's expressing doubts. He's expressing emotions. He's crying before Krishna. He's questioning Krishna. He's challenging Krishna. And ultimately, he's surrendering to Krishna. This is why Bhagavad Gita is so perfect. And Srimad Bhagavatam talks Shukadeva and Parikshit Maharaj. So amazing, their exchange and how the one is speaking and the one is hearing in such active, intentional ways. Or the subtext of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Sutta Goswami is explaining to the sages at Naimisharanya. This is also another beautiful example. Sutta Goswami says about himself in the first canto, 18th chapter. Sutta Goswami is expressing to the sages after being approached by them how unqualified he is. He says, I'm Viloma Jata, that I come from a mixed background, my parents were mixed marriage, Viloma Jata, and Duskulya. My family background is not very good. And especially in Vedic times, this was a really important thing, your family background. He's saying, but I'm not qualified. Viloma Jata, mixed birth, even his very name, Sutta Goswami, indicates that he comes from, by the caste point of view, he comes from less than an ideal situation. But he says, but because of anuvritti, because I have followed in the footsteps of my guru and all the previous acharyas, because of that, I am able to speak to you. So this is the qualification, and Sutta is so qualified. He heard the talks from Shukadeva Goswami, and then because he heard with that rapt attention, so intentionally, so focused, therefore he was able to speak it to the sages at Naimisharanya. Prabhupada says about Sutta Goswami, this is the purport of that verse in the 18th chapter of the first canto. Prabhupada writes, Sutta Goswami learned the science of Krishna from great rishis and authorities like Shukadev and Vyasadeva. And he was so qualified that even the sages of Naimisharanya eagerly wanted to hear from him the science of Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this sentence I love. He wrote, so he had the double association of great souls by hearing and preaching. Transcendental science, or the science of Krishna, has to be learned from the authorities. And when one preaches the science, he becomes still more qualified. This is beautiful. I especially love this. He had the double association of great souls. His first association was hearing from Shukadev and hearing from Vyasadeva, the Srimad Bhagavatam. That was the one association. And then when he was preaching to the sages of Naimisharanya, who all of them were themselves great sages and great devotees and sincere seekers, that was his second association. So this is also necessary. Active hearing has to also lead to active preaching. And then you get this double association. So to become doubly blessed, not just blessed, but to become doubly blessed, this is the special prerogative of the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who are preachers of the message of Krishna, that they get doubly blessed. So this is the test, that if you're hearing properly, like Prabhupada said about himself, because I was good at hearing, I then became good at preaching. So this is what kind of hearing? Again, not the mechanical dull hearing, but this active hearing. Actually, Prabhupada said about himself that he generally didn't ask questions of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. He even said that sometimes he didn't even understand what he was saying, but he went on hearing with rapt attention. And Bhaktisiddhanta marked him. Yes, I have marked him. He likes to hear, he said about our Srila Prabhupada. So this kind of hearer and this kind of chanting is how the parampara continues and how the preaching goes on in a dynamic and active and productive way when you have hearers like that and practitioners like that and preachers like that. So this is the beauty of this process of hearing. And like I said, this is as much a lesson of Vidura's and Maitreya's exchanges as the actual philosophy that they're discussing. And now let's now get to the actual philosophy that they're discussing. And Prabhupada explains it, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the predominator, and the living entity is the predominated. Every living entity is predominated. We are under control. And Krishna is the controller of all. Ekala Ishwara Krishna Arasa Britya. That Krishna is the one supreme controller, and everyone else is the servant. And I don't remember the rest of the verse, but it goes something like, and all of the other living entities are dancing according to his instruction. So this is the point that Prabhupada is very much stressing. And in the second verse, he again stresses the same thing, except he adds the point that how is it that the living entities, the conditioned living entities, are being controlled from above or being predominated over? It's through the via medium of the material energy. That the living entities are under the control of the material energy, and Krishna is in control of the material energy. This is a nice conversation from early 1968. Prabhupada's talking to one man and he says, young man, he says, yes, you are subordinate. You must have to bow down. When death is there, you cannot say, oh, I don't obey you. Therefore, you are subordinate. So the young man says, yes, I am subordinate to God. And Prabhupada says, no, don't bring in God. Forget God. Just now we are speaking common sense. Young man says, but Krishna, I don't. Prabhupada then interrupts again. No, don't speak of Krishna. Krishna is far away. You just try to understand that you do not want to die. Why are you forced to death? Young man, why am I forced to death? Prabhupada, yes, because you are subordinate. You are bowing down to death. You are bowing down to disease. You are bowing down to old age. You are bowing down to so many things. You are forced. And still you're thinking, I cannot bow down. I don't like to bow down. So Prabhupada's explaining, just like in the second verse, he said, we're controlled by the material energy. So here Prabhupada is arguing without even bringing Krishna into the equation yet, that you have to bow down to the material energy. And at the time of death, literally, this is not a fresh idea, a new idea, but literally at the time of death, you're forced to do dandavat, right? Lay down like a stick on the ground. You're forced to bow down to death. Not even bringing Krishna in, you have to accept, first of all, that I am not supreme. I am predominated, first of all, by the material energy, which I cannot surpass. This is Durga. Daivihyesha gunamayi mama maya durateya. This maya is so difficult to overcome. So that's the first thing. We have to accept that. Then he continues speaking to that person. He says, therefore, the next process is that I am being forced to bow down. Now we have to find out, where shall I become happy by my bowing down? That is Krishna. Now he's bringing the full view, the full equation in. That is Krishna. Your bowing down will not be stopped because you are meant for that. But if you bow down to Krishna and Krishna's representative, then you become happy. So this is very nice, the way Prabhupada develops this idea. You have to bow down. You are forced under the control of material nature. The bowing down is not an option. It's a must. So we then have to ask, where should my bowing down? Because we have some free will, even though we're controlled by material nature, we also have some intention. We have some minute to whatever degree, free will, so we can control to whom and to where and in what direction and for what purpose we bow down. Do we bow down by force under the hard blows of material nature, or do we bow down and surrender to Krishna? Mame veye prapadyante mayametam tarantite. If you do that, then you're no longer forced to bow down to material nature. Or as Prabhupada said, if you bow down to Krishna and Krishna's representative, then you become happy. So this is the understanding. We are under matter, and matter is under Krishna. Krishna Buli Se Jeev Anadi Bahir Mukh. All the living entities are forgetting Krishna from time immemorial, Bahir Mukh, and we're turning away from Krishna and turning towards Krishna's external material energy. And for how long? Since yesterday, since last week, since our birth? No, Anadi. Since time immemorial, you cannot trace out the beginning of when we started doing that. Krishna Buliya Sejiv, we forget Krishna and we turn to the material energy. Ataiva Mayatare Deya Samsara Duk. And when we do that, then the material energy subjugates us and gives us all kinds of troubles, all kinds of suffering. We know the threefold suffering, Adidaivik, Adiatmik, Adibodhik, but the sufferings in material life are unlimited. Or they could be summarized as birth, death, old age, and disease. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. We should have a vision of these. We should keep these within our vision. But as soon as we forget Krishna, as soon as we ignore Krishna, then immediately we turn our face away. As we've also discussed before, Bahir Mukh means turning your face away. Just like if you're outside and if it's early morning and if you're facing the east, then you're facing the sun and you're in the full light and you don't see shadow, you see the sun, you get the full light of the sun. But Bahir Mukh, if you turn around, then you can't see the light anymore. Then you can't see the sun anymore. So we're under the material energy and it's giving us all these distress. Not because Maya Devi is mean or angry or evil, like some weird idea of Satan or something like that. It's because that's the nature of material energy. We're meant for serving Krishna. We're meant to bow down to Krishna. And if we give up our dharma, our Sanatan dharma of serving Krishna, then of course we're going to suffer. Prabhupada also gave the example, if you take a fish out of water, no matter what comforts you give it, it will always be suffering out of water because it's out of its element, it's out of its true nature. So we're subordinate to matter, to the material energy, to the Mayic energy. And that Mayic energy is subordinate to Krishna. Maya Dyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. I control this energy of Maya, and from it, all the moving and non-moving entities and beings and situations of this material world are coming out. Hetunanena konteya jagad viparivartate. And because of that, this whole material creation is going on. Because of this Maya Dyakshena, my energy of Maya, which is under my control. So the jivas are under the material energy, and Krishna and the material energy is under Krishna. That means, like, that's the whole point. If we bow down to Krishna instead of the material energy, it means we're jumping over that cut, like in a business, they say, cut out the middleman, right? So if you just surrender directly to Krishna, then Atayeva Mayatare Deya Samsara Duk, then the sufferings of material life, the whole process is short-circuited. And the sufferings of material life. When you realize that we're under Maya and the Maya is under Krishna. Or just like Srila Vyasadeva himself, if we remember back to the first canto, how Vyasadeva was a little puzzled, a little bewildered why he wasn't satisfied, and his guru Narada Muni came and preached to him very nicely. And right after that preaching, Vyasadeva, he took bath, he made a nice sitting place, and he sat down to meditate on what he had learned. And what did he learn? Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apashyat purusham purnam mayam chatad apashrayam. This was Vyasadev's realization from the preaching of Narada Muni, that bhakti yoga manasi samyak pranihite male. Just like Vidura is saying, you've removed all of my doubt, you've removed all of my illusion, and explained everything very nicely. So Vyasadeva is saying the same thing. Samyak pranihite male. My mind is now properly equipoised and cleansed of all my illusion and doubt. What? How? Bhakti yogena manasi, by my mind being suffused with the process of bhakti yoga and the realization of Krishna and surrendering to Krishna, bowing down to Krishna. And what else did he see? He saw that, and he said, Apashyat Purusham Purnam Mayam Chatad Apashrayam. He saw the Purusham Purnam. He saw Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Purnam, who is full and complete in every way imaginable. Om Purnamadat Purnamidam. He's so pure and he's so complete and so full with all potencies that unlimited potencies and unlimited entities are coming from him, come from his energies, yet he's not diminished in any way, not in the least. So he says, Apashyat Purusham Purnam. I saw the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I saw Mayam Chatada Pashrayam. I saw the material energy, Apashrayam, under his control. Sometimes Prabhupada would also, in discussing this verse, he would say that Maya was behind him, that Maya is like on Krishna's backside. So apashrayam means literally it's under Krishna's control, it's under Krishna's shelter. So this is the point. We are under the material energy. It cannot be argued, it cannot be doubted. And Krishna is controlling that material energy. So if instead of bowing down to matter, to Maya, to our desires to enjoy the Maya, and instead we bow down to Krishna, Manmanav Bhavamad Bhakto Madhyajimam Namaskuru. If we bow down to Krishna, Manmana, if we think of Krishna, Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto, become Krishna's devotee. Madhyaji, we worship Krishna. Namaskuru, and we bow down to Krishna. This simple thing, just bowing down to Krishna. Proud people will sometimes say, there's a phrase, I bow down to no man. But like Prabhupada said, we all have to bow down. It's unavoidable. So bow down to Krishna. Therefore, we're short-circuiting the pernicious effects of the material energy. And this can happen when, like Vidura, when you have someone so qualified to hear from and to inquire from, like Maitreya. And Maitreya is so immensely qualified, and Vidura himself is so immensely qualified, and the hearing between them is so powerful and so interactive and full of questions back and forth and explanations and even doubts expressed and an appreciation given when those doubts are removed. Then this process can bring us to this point, like Vyasadeva attained after speaking to Narada Muni. And this is, again, this is active hearing, active listening, or to say it in another word, this is a word that Prabhupada used. He would say this is hearing with rapt attention, right? This is the perfection of this active hearing, is to hear about Krishna with rapt attention. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, third chapter. Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Let's see. Text 44. O learned Brahmanas, again, this is Sutta Goswami speaking. O learned Brahmanas, when Shukadev Goswami recited Bhagavatam there, in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention, and thus by his mercy I learned the Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him and as I have realized it. So this is a beautiful expression, with rapt attention. Let's see now. I was looking in the Sanskrit to see if there's what rapt attention is. I can't quite find that. But this is such a nice expression. He heard properly from Shukadev, and therefore he was able to express the same thing, not like a parrot, although the parrot in one sense is glorified for repeating the same thing, but not like not blindly repeating like a parrot. But he says, as I learned it from him, and as I have realized it. So when you realize it, which comes from proper hearing, then you could express it yourself. And we read, just like when we read the Bhaktivedanta purports, or we listen to Srila Prabhupada's lectures, he's giving the same exact knowledge that has been passed down for years and ages and yuga cycles and eternally, the eternal Vedic knowledge, but he's also presenting it with his own realizations and with his own experience even of preaching in the West and starting a movement. All of that is wrapped up in it. He's repeating the same thing, but also as he personally has realized it, and he was able to do that because he was hearing with rapt attention from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. So in the purport to that verse in the first canto, Prabhupada writes this, and this is also very beautiful. The word nivishta means that Sutta Goswami drank the juice of Bhagavatam through his ears. That is the real process of receiving Bhagavatam. One should hear with rapt attention from the real person, and then he can at once realize the presence of Lord Krishna in every page. The secret of knowing Bhagavatam is mentioned here. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. No one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. But somehow or other, if someone hears with rapt attention from the right person, at the very beginning, one can assuredly see Lord Krishna in person in the pages of Bhagavatam. So this act of hearing, this hearing with rapt attention, he gives a formula. You have to be pure in mind. To be pure in mind, you have to be pure in action. To be pure in action, you have to be pure in your eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But somehow or other here with rapt attention. And that's why we have the process of sadhana. Just like, again, referring to Tuesday's verse, there's a difference between hearing in the process of sadhana and hearing in the process of bhava or prema. But still, hearing in sadhana bhakti is essential because this is what purifies our mind. Following the regulative principles is what purifies our eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. All of this is preparatory for us hearing with rapt attention, which is what happens at the higher stages of devotional service. So this is the process that Srila Prabhupada has given us to somehow or other. This is the beginning of devotional service. When Prabhupada says, when Prabhupada quotes Srila Rupa Goswami, Ado Shraddha, he always says that this Ado Shraddha means, let me hear. This is the actual beginning of faith. Let me hear from this person. Oh, what are these Hare Krishna saying? What is this person saying? Let me hear. What is this book saying? Reading is also hearing. Let me hear what this book is saying. So from the very beginning, this process is there. And in one sense, we could analyze the whole growth of devotional service from that very beginning hearing up to the point of hearing, like Vidura is hearing from Maitreya, like Prabhupada is hearing from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, like Vyasadeva is hearing from Narada. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everybody, for your very kind attention. If there's any questions or comments or discussion, we can do that now.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much for the nice advice and expressions and everything. Like, Vidura and Maitreya Munis. And whatever, how the way Vidura was telling, that you said everything and I absorbed and then I follow that. No, I very clearly you explained. So like that, you explained very clearly for us, Prabhu.
You're too
And
kind.
lot of things in this way I need to observe this. It's very, very, very clear. And like Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj, there's also how he was attentively listening to that Bhagavatam.
Right.
That is main, that like that nectar, you are saying that how it goes to ears and how it goes to our body, and it clears whole body, one gets nectar through ears. So that is really something, Prabhu. Reaching that stage, it's very hard. Where I'm at the bottom stage, but all these things, I bow down to Krishna. That is the main thing, and he will take care of everything, I think. And we have to control our senses, and then for hearing and know, we have to have this. Like Krishna is Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachite. So he is all full, and we have to pay attention to listen to, and what his katha. It's very, very important, Prabhu. And asking questions sometimes, I feel little, what do you call, I don't know how to ask. Those things I still back out. So that is what my problem is. But if I ask questions only, it can be cleared from my mind.
Right.
That is very much. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for
Thank
this.
you, Mother. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol Prabhu,
Yes,
very
go
nice
ahead, Mother.
class. You speak a lot about hearing, and we had to bow down to Krishna. But we see a lot, day to day with so many other people. They really don't have a taste to hear. So how, and we cannot force them, especially so many family members and everything. We cannot force them to hear. So, so is there any way that we can indirectly help?
I don't really have much there. We just have to do the best we can to at least make some time each day, if possible, for us to hear. And if we could bring others into that circle of hearing. It said Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, to always be hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. But Nitya means constantly, like 24 hours a day. Nityam also means that we go on hearing and never stop hearing. It's not like the Mayavadis, they have some sadhana and then they reach a perfect stage and they don't have to do the sadhana anymore. Hearing isn't like that. That's also nitya. And nitya also means regularly. That, okay, maybe I can't hear 24 hours a day, but let me set aside an hour a day with Srila Prabhupada's books, or a half hour a day, or let me hear the morning class, to make some sort of regular schedule. And if we could bring others, that's good, but it's not always possible. But we just do the best we can. Okay? Yes, Mother Madhavi, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Just
Krishna.
want to appreciate your class, Prabhu. Thank you so much for giving such a nectar in the morning. So the words which you mentioned about hearing, when I hear, I wish I have lots of ears, and then I
Yes.
have lots of tongues, is very, very beautiful words. And I just, I was remembering that Rupa Goswami, actually, he made this verse in Vigad Madhava. And he was telling this to Ramananda Rai, Nityananda Prabhu, and everybody, and they were all shocked that how come Rupa Goswami composed such a beautiful verse. And it's because of the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was right there also in the discussion.
Right.
So this
Do you know
verse,
that?
Prabhu,
Do you not know that verse or have it handy?
so I know this verse.
Would you mind reciting it?
The Sanskrit verse, the Sanskrit, I don't know the complete because it's a big, but I can really find out if you want. Yeah, it's in Ante Leela, chapter 1. That's this verse which you mentioned. So,
Okay. Actually, I have it.
What is the starting of the verse?
I'm just,
Anyway, I'm not gonna,
yeah. So
I'm not gonna look
my
for it now, but it is a beautiful verse.
Yeah, so my point is that the feeling which or the realization which Sri Rupa Goswami had is very difficult to achieve. And you rightly said in Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti, when we reach there, then that will be, the feeling or the realization which we will be getting. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for bringing this point. I think that's the highlight for me for the discussion. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Actually, that verse is very nice, and I can't remember the Sanskrit, but I remember the context of that verse is actually being used to describe Srimati Radharani,
Oh,
because Purnamasi is speaking to what's her granddaughter's name?
Gargi.
Huh?
Gargi?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Gargi. Yeah, Gargi, the daughter of Garg Muni.
Yeah.
I'm here looking in
So
the book just to.
yeah, so they're having a discussion about arranging meetings with Purnamasi says something. We have to arrange a meeting with Radha and Krishna so that their love can happen. And her granddaughter says, no, their love is already at the highest pitch possible. What do you mean make their love happen? It's already existing and it's already so intense. So Purnamasi says, oh, what's your evidence that it's so intense? And then, so she quotes that verse to her, saying, this is Radharani, that when she hears Krishna's name, she wants millions of years to hear it and millions of tongues to speak it. This is proof of their already existing love. But yeah, very nice verse and very elevated stage. And as always, it's something to aspire for. For those of us at the sadhana stage, we can look forward to something like that and gradually approach it. Okay, anything else? Question or comment? Okay, thank you very much.
Prabhu,
Yes.
I found the verse.
Oh,
said.
would you read it, please? That would be awesome.
Yeah, I found it too. Yes, go ahead, Mataji.
Yeah, I do not know how much nectar.
Could you read the Sanskrit also, please, if you have it? It'll refresh my memory because I used to know it.
Yeah. Tvadetan Tandavani Ratim Vitanute Tundavali Labdaye Karnakoda Kadambini Gata Ayati Karnabu Budhebhya Spriham Cheta Prangana Sangini Vijayate Sarve Driyanam Kritim Najane Janita Kiyadbir Amrita Krishniti Varnadwai. Okay, the translation is I do not know how much nectar the two-syllable Krishna are produced. When the holy name of Krishna is chanted, it appears to dance within the mouth. We then desire many, many mouths. When that name enters the holes of the ears, we desire many millions of ears. And when the holy name dances in the courtyard of the heart, it conquers the activities of the mind, and therefore all the senses become inert.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Yeah, imagine that kind of hearing.
Yeah,
This is rapt attention to a degree we can hardly imagine.
I had to have lives and lives, Prabhu, for that.
As long as it takes. as long as we're working towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. So much nectar just in the holy name of Krishna, 2 syllables,
Yes.
that it conquers all of the material senses. And we have that. We have the 2 syllables of Krishna's name, and we have the Maha Mantra, and we have all the nectar from Krishna of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada's purports. We have an embarrassment of riches. And as we take to it more and more, we'll appreciate that more and more. Thanks for reading that. Okay. Anything else?
Gita Gangodakam Pitva Punarjanma Navidyate. That one, the first slokas, we have in the book, Bhagavad Gita book, we have all those about Bhagavad Gita. Gita Gangodakam Pitva Punarjanma Navidyate. Gita Ganga Chagayatri Sita Satya Saraswati. All those, really, how much we have this. We are so fortunate in this human life. I'm so fortunate to listen to this, Prabhu.
Yes. Most fortunate.
I don't know
Thank you
whether
very
next
much.
life, what I will get and where I will be. But
I know,
this life,
I know where you'll be. You'll pick up, Bhagavad Gita says where you'll be. You'll continue. You'll get,
that's
you'll
my,
either return back to Godhead or you'll continue on your path back to Godhead. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. And you especially,
I don't know.
you don't need to worry. You're doing
Every
awesome.
morning I want to listen to this Bhagavatam. I don't know how much it's going to my mind, how much I'm remembering at this age. But still I want to be sitting in front of my Bhagavatam class. Thank you very much for nice nectar class.
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for your very kind attention. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Vaishnavi
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Krishna, thank you.